Asian studies from all around the world. CESAS has several programs, such as ICAT. The Indonesian Journal of Southeast Asian Studies is an academic, open access, and peer-reviewed journal about Southeast Asian societies and cultures. Symposium on Social Science, or SOSS. SOSS is a biennial event organized by CESAS to encourage a more significant role of social science in Indonesia and globally. Southeast Asia Conference on Media, Cinema, and Art, or CMCA, is a conference focused on media, cinema, and art. MMAT, or Teaching and Researching in Southeast Asia. Seagate, CChat, CTalk, C-Movie, Internship. CESAS UGM has several partnerships with both domestic and international institutions, such as Pacific Media Center, AUT, New Zealand, Department of Social and Cultural Anthropology, Freiburg University, Germany, University of Oslo, Norway, College of Innovation, Thammasat University, International Relations Department, Universitas Islam Indonesia, Ludwig Maximilians University, Germany, Faculty of Arts, University of Sydney, Australia, University of Colombo, Sri Lanka, Mahidol University, Thailand, Purbanchal University, Nepal, Sogang Institute for East Asian Studies, Sogan University, Republic of Korea, Southeast Asian Studies Program, National University of Singapore, Department of Southeast Asian Studies, Rheinische Friedrich Wilhelm Universität Bonn, Germany, Faculty of Liberal Arts, Thammasat University, Thailand, the American Institute for Indonesian Studies, or IFIS, TDMRC, Universitas Syah Kuala, Aceh, COREM, Universitas Diponegoro, Semarang, the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, or FES, Indonesia, Language Institute, Nakhon Pathom Ratchaphat University, Thailand, International Indonesian Forum for Asian Studies, or IIFAS, Mission of Japan to ASEAN, 1 Billion Rising Indonesia.
Nggak pakai headset.
Okay, good morning, everyone. How are you today?
Morning, Yuyun. Good. How are you?
Good, thank you. Hopefully, we are always happy. 38 students here. Yesterday, we have about 60, but perhaps there are several students that still trying to join. But okay, we will start this today's sessions. The second day of the lecture this morning, we'll discuss digital transformation in Asia related to political and government issues. And in today's class, we will have 3 sessions. The first session is a lecture session by Dr. Rino Nugroho from 9 to 10. Then the second session is a lecture from Dr. Priyambudi Sulistianto from Flinders University of South Australia. And the last session is student group discussion. And in today's class, the class will be facilitated by Dr. Rino Nugroho for the next 3 hours. So before I leave the class to Dr. Rino, I will first read a short biography of Dr. Rino Nugroho. Okay. Dr. Rino Nugroho is Assistant Professor at the Department of Public Administration, Faculty of Social and Political Sciences, Universitas 11 Maret. His research area is in innovation in government, including but not limited to digital governance, information governance, and smart governance. His recent projects are detecting misinformation, disinformation around COVID-19 issues, telemedicine adoption in the elderly, and digital safety literacy issues. Most of his recent publications are in the unique areas of combination between socio-technological issues such as technology adoption, social network mapping, and data visualization. So for the next 3 hours, I invite Dr. Rino as a facilitator of the today's class. How are you, Dr. Rino Nugroho? Dr. Rino? In Indonesia, we usually call Pak Rino. You can call
Alhamdulillah, I'm fine,
Professor
Bu.
Rino.
Unfortunately, I forget where I put the virtual background. So I'm using my own virtual background. Sorry.
That's okay.
Can you send me again?
Yeah, sure. Yes, I will send.
All right.
Okay, Pak Rino, I give the time for you for the next 3 hours. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Person at this point of time, so it will be pleasure to you to learn about the digitalization in Asia. So let me look at all of you. I believe most of you are more from Indonesia, but some of the students are from overseas as well. So if you don't mind, please raise your hand for you, those for you that are from Indonesia. Please raise your hand. Just don't raise your hand like this, but using a digital raise hand that is provided by Zoom. Okay, 1, 2, only 2, 3, 4, 5. I know some of you. 5, okay. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay. Okay, not all of you raise hands, so that's fine. Any of you from overseas Indonesia? From Malaysia? From Taiwan? Okay. Anielo Ianon, where are you from?
Italy.
Sorry?
Italy.
Italy, okay. So what time is it now in there?
Malam mungkin. Aku dari tapi nggak tinggal Italy.
Oh, okay. So you're not staying in Italy, okay. Vivian, where are you from?
I'm from the Philippines.
Oh, you're from the Philippines. What time now in there?
10 a.m.
10 a.m. All right. Ellie, where are you from, Ellie?
I'm from Indonesia, Jakarta.
Oh, you're from Jakarta. Yeah. Hey. Aning, from where are you from, Aning?
I think I forget to get down my raise hand. I'm from Depok, Jawa Barat, actually.
Okay, yeah.
I'm sorry, I forget
All
to
right.
lower my hand.
That's all right. Francisca, where are you from?
Hi, professors. Actually, I'm Indonesian, but recently I'm staying in Taiwan.
Oh, you're staying in Taiwan. Sinchu,
Yeah.
right?
Yep, thank you.
Okay, so we are here today to discuss about how the government or electronic government responses during the pandemics. It's a quite recent discussion, and I hope that will be a lively discussion and lively talks between us. So I hope it's not only a one direction. Then you can always jump up to the class and say something, say about your opinion about the things that might interest others as well. So before I'm going to my discussion, so my discussion is mostly about how the government reacts to the infodemics during this pandemic era. May I know any of you have heard about infodemics before? Info endemics. It's not another type of COVID that have an alpha, beta, gamma, and so on and so forth. Any of you ever heard about that?
Is that related to the spread of information about the situation? It also highlight whether it's accurate or not accurate. I think that's the only I know, Pak.
Yes, that's correct, Bu Aning. So when we talk about infodemics, it's information that related to pandemics, which in some extent it worsened the pandemic itself. So when we talk about infodemics, at some point, even the WHO, the World Health Organization, categorized the infodemic as dangerous as the pandemic itself. Why do you think it's dangerous to have such kind of infodemics? Any ideas that you can share here with your friends? Can you imagine
Maybe
that is the
maybe
yeah,
because
okay.
the huge information can be filtered. So this means one information for thousand information makes the one system cannot be filtered from this, make like a sickness in the system. So like, for example, the spread of fake news, disinformation, and so on. So if for example, there is a spread of one disinformation, but 4 million people, it's hard to stop. So this can be classified like an infection or a pandemic.
Okay.
I don't know if I get it.
Yeah, so even the pandemic itself is worse. Then if we get the wrong information about the pandemic, it might worsen the pandemic itself. Like Aniela said, if we get bad information, then it will be spread badly as well, as well as the information itself can spread. So let's say what happens now with the vaccine and anti-vaccine movement is some kind like that.
There is a growth for anti-vaccine.
Yeah. The anti-vax group is still growing now, and it's across country issues now. It's not only in Indonesia, but as well as in the Western countries. They use any kind of approach, like they use the religion side, they use the logical side, they use the leftist side to promote the anti-vax logics, and that's threatening to fight the pandemic itself. Yes,
and I think it's interesting if you compare the pandemic. For example, the last pandemic, the big one, like the flu, the Spanish flu. There was a huge, massive vaccination campaign, but because there is not social media, the spread of anti-information or disinformation doesn't go inside. But now it's more complicated because every people can speak through social media. So my opinion is equal opinion of that has doctor. So my opinion and the doctor opinion is equal in social media. So the people can choose between me that I don't understand about vaccine and doctor that understand. Sometimes the people choose the people don't understand. This is really happening in Europe. For example, in Europe we have not really huge group of anti-vaccine, but quite enough, especially in the boomer generation. I mean, the people from 35 to 15, they don't want to get vaccine. In the other hand, for example, if I look at data from the young generation, the generation X, they approve the vaccine. So there is like this gap generation, especially from the boomer generation.
Yeah, that's interesting. What Aniela said is correct. So when we talk about the fake news, misinformation, disinformation in social media, each person is equal. So we cannot differentiate one with expertise and one that is not having expertise. What I say here as not a medical doctor is same to those who have the medical doctor degree. So I might mislead someone regarding the pandemics, regarding the COVID-19, that it can worsen the pandemic condition. Why? Because someone who trusts me might get mistreated. So that's the problem with the infodemics. Anila also highlights how the Spanish flu having such not having this kind of situation, because at that time the social media is not spread widely. If we look maybe a closer look at the avian influenza, so not the Spanish flu is quite far from us, but if you look the avian influenza, where internet is already there, but the social media is not as booming as now, the spread of the infodemic is still can be manageable. But for now, as we enter the society 5.0, where all of the person has the access to social media, and all of the person have the equal rights to say something on the behalf, that becoming the problem. So what I'm going to share with you about my experience in doing research on how the governments handle this kind of misinformation. I will highlight the two countries here, Indonesia and Taiwan. So it might interest Francisca, who live in Taiwan as well. Also, I will highlight how all of the countries in Asia handle this kind of issue. Do they have like what they said, what we call it as a hoax buster? So they have like a website for combating hoax. Some of the countries say hoax buster. In Indonesia, it would be lawan hoax, or in English, it would be against the misinformation or disinformation or not. The juggling is between how can we preserve the democratic system or not. So behind all of this issue, there are some basic issues that need to be addressed as well. Like I said before, whether this digital world should be preserved the democratic side of it, like the free of speech and so on and so forth, or should it be regulated? And how does the countries reacts to that kind of issues? So I will try to start my lecture. So if you have any questions, so just please raise hand and ask. So I will happily answer your questions. I hope it will not be. All right. So any more opinion regarding the misinformation, or any of you had that bad experience with misinformation? Can anybody want to share? Okay. All right. Let's see. E-government and government response to the pandemic crisis. So this is my session. So I put this title on my PowerPoints. if we looked at infodemics, like Bu Aning already said before, infodemics has information about pandemics that is falsely spread among the people. So WHO has put infodemic as similar threat as the COVID-19 itself because it can worsen the condition of the COVID-19. Infodemics also threats the medical workers in doing their jobs and possibly affects government in managing pandemics. Controlling information about pandemics is crucial to save life, like I said before. So on one side, the controlling information about pandemics is important as it can save lives. But on the other hand, in some countries, see this as a threat to their democratic system. I'm trying to do literature work to understand how the COVID and misinformation located. So if you look at the picture here, I'm using the FOSView software that is quite common use now. Information and fake news and COVID is quite related to each other, and it's closely related between the nodes. So the key networks here, as you might see, it's COVID, pandemic, information, and fake news. What does it mean? It means that all of these issues are closely related. So that's something that interesting to look further. Then I'll try to do the visual density, and again, those three issues are the same. So they have the density issue. They have the same dense, meaning that plenty of the key terms are discussed here about the COVID, about the pandemic, the information and fake news. And when I look at how the research says based on the period of time, so in the early 2020s, mostly discuss about the pandemic itself. In the February 2020, starting to talk about fake news. Starting from April, again, talk about the COVID, forget about fake news. And starting from June 2020 until now, still discussing about the misinformation. I haven't done similar research on this year, but I think it's the similar result will have the same thing. I also try to do a literature review, and what interesting here is I got 125 references about the misinformation on COVID, which 119 of them, it's not related. 54 of them, I assess use the full text eligibility, but only 24 studies excluded, which all of them, why they exclude? Because most of the literature not discussing about government policy or action. So they just discuss about there's a COVID, there's a pandemic, there's misinformation, disinformation here and there, but they did not say anything about government policy action or public action. So they only say that there's a condition like this. There's a COVID-19 in, let's say, in Europe, and there's a misinformation in Europe. That's it. No urging on how government should act towards that. And then only 30 studies included, and all of which only some of them say that government policy is important to manage the COVID-19 infodemics. Only 5 of them saying about the government policy in practice. We can highlight that again because it's related to what I'm being told to say today. Government policy in practice, and the other party then government should regulate as well. So in this regards, other party then government might be in the third party, like NGO, to regulate about the misinformation. And the government misinformation, meaning that government spreading the misinformation by themselves. It's not necessarily a disinformation. Disinformation is something that wrong information that by design spread by someone, but misinformation is not by design to be spread and not relevant. Fake news, description, blah blah blah. So based on this thematic analysis, I might say that very few research has put a government policy in action in practice, meaning that very small amount of government has put attention on this misinformation and disinformation on COVID-19 infodemics, as well as only 5, you can imagine. Among all of the government in this world, only 5 has that kind of research. And this is what I can compare from each countries of the how do they combat the misinformation during the COVID-19. So they put in jail, strict policy in Peru, and in some other countries I forget, but definitely in Peru they put a strict policy. So someone who spread infodemics, they put them in jail. Other one use counter issue strategy using coordinated tweets. So some of the government use the coordinated tweets. So it might be what we in Indonesia they are we call it buzzer. In theoretically in communication science they call it buzzer. So they put someone that is paid by government maybe or a third party to use the coordinated tweets to combat the misinformation. Other than that, there's a partnership between government sector, private sector, citizen, and academic. So they invite public figure to spread to against the infodemics. We can witness that in Indonesia, but for other countries, someone might have a different opinion. So if you have a different experience and evidence based on your countries, please share with your friends here. And then I look further on Worldometers. So I look at Worldometers and I'll try to do the Google Trends check and try to keyword the Worldometers and coronavirus check. And this is the result. So it's not saying anything about it, but when I look at further, look at every website on the Worldometers, only 3 countries among the Asian countries have the hoaxbuster or fact checkers. So can you imagine with that kind of infodemics that spread among the world, among the countries in the world, only 3 of the countries in Asia have the hoaxbuster or fact checkers. So Indonesia, Bahrain, and Lebanon, to name a few. Then I try to look further on the social and political context of these countries. Why, and try to understand why do they have that kind of strategy. So the first one, Indonesia have a diverse society. So they have a different ethnic, different religion, as well as different tribes. So it is their national needs to have hoaxbusters. How about Lebanon? They have a segregated society. They might not have a diverse society as we are, as Indonesian have, but they have the segregated society based on religion. So that is easily to break up between them. And Bahrain have a minority domination, Sunni royal family oversight majority, so they need to have a control about the information. No information collected from North Korea as well. Very few. China as well, not having that kind of what we call it as official fact checker, official hoaxbuster that is issued by government, that is represented by the ministerial office, minister office, or any other government body. So this is the result of when I try to look at each of the website that they put in the Worldometers regarding the fact checkers. Only few of them have the fact checkers. So it's quite interesting to look at, meaning that we can translate it into that each of the government has pretty confidence about whether their public, their society will not trust on that kind of misinformation.
I
Or
guess would be kind of what it comes
sorry,
from info and epidemics, and so it will be talking about epidemics, whether right, like the right information about the epidemic that's the official, or
sorry, can you say it again, Ivana?
sorry, Prof. I accidentally unmuting my microphone.
All right. I thought you were going to ask something. If you ask something, just really to ask, Ivana. Feel free to ask.
Thank you, Prof.
Okay, can I? Then this is the result of when I look at the websites. And
excuse me, sir.
yeah,
I have a question related
Sure,
to
sure.
infodemic. It is
Sure,
very interesting that now people, I think, quite hard to control the information. My question then, how to build the resilience of information for government, and then how to identify whether the information is the fake or the true one. It,
Okay.
I think, quite hard for me. Me myself, I just imagine how to law education people. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Pak Koko. I think I will answer the second question first. So how can we trust some information? All right. Usually in some countries, including in Indonesia, have two strategies. The first one, they have official fact checkers that is issued by the government. You can see the Kominfo website as well, Kominfo fact checkers, as well as the third party. They have the Lawan Hoax movement, and they have Mavindo as well. So if you look at the Google, you can find them. I will show that later on our discussion. But how can we differentiate between true or not true information, or false information and not false information? We can look at them. Luckily, Indonesia have both kind of, from government and from the third party. So we can compare between the two. So you can check from them whether it's a fact or not, or not, and then you can believe on the websites. So that's the first strategy, the easiest strategy. The second strategy is just identify them. To identify them is quite easy. Usually it's just
CESAS is a research institute of Universitas Gadjah Mada that focuses on social issues in Southeast Asia. The research center was founded.
It's just too good to be true, and it's not logical. Usually it related with fraud that include money in it. So whether it's too good to be true, it's generally it's a fake news, and it use a big what we call it, big alphabetical. So it's not common to use all of those big fonts. So that's some ideas on how to detect the false or fake news. How the government resilience toward it? Like I said before, government has how to once the misinformation reaches the audience, it's very hard to control. It's very difficult to control. Theoretically, we have to put stories between the fake news. So usually fake news has a whole a logical hole. So the government should fill in those logical hole. Usually they use fact to fill in the logical hole. Or other things that government can do is providing the information before the fake news came out. So that might be a harder strategy, but that might works well. So it means that government should be responsive for any kind of information that might appear in the society. So that's some of the way how the government resilience from the fake news. The other thing, if the fake news has already spread widely, research says that government should use influencers. Someone should use influencers. Influencers is the best way to fight the fake news. We might see as well in Indonesia that government use some of the influencers to promote the government's program. So that might be the strategy that, as far as I know, on how the Indonesian government to resilience on the fake news part. I hope that satisfy you. But if you any feedbacks,
thank you very much, sir.
Okay, no worries, Pak. Bu Ani.
Yes, Pak. Actually, I'm really interested in your literature review previously, Pak, about, if I'm not mistaken, 19 paper urging. I'm sorry, 5 minutes. 16.
Yeah.
Yes, 16 paper urging the importance of government policy. Can you elaborate a little bit, Pak, what kind of their recommendation or suggestion about that first? And the second, is there any policy that, is there any recommendation from the papers that address the digital literacy? Because of maybe less of digital literacy will affect on how easy people influenced by the hoax or infodemics. Thank you, Pak.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Bu Aning. That's a interesting question and good questions. So mostly literature urging the government action because it's already spread widely, but only a few of them have a technical advisory about how the government acts. One of them, like I said before to Pak Koko, it related to the government should hire influencers to combat the misinformation and disinformation. But like interestingly, like you said before, very few has put digital literacy as one of the key to combat the misinformation and disinformation. So yes, it's very few discussing about that. Maybe I suppose it's because the digital literacy needs more time to act, rather than hiring influencers might be an easier and faster result compared to the digital literacy. But that's still debatable. We can debate it and we can discuss it further. After this, I will show you and compare the two strategies that used by Indonesia and Taiwan. So maybe we can get a more sense on how each countries have a different strategy and how to react to this misinformation and disinformation. Is that enough, Bu Aning, or?
Looking forward to your comparison.
Okay, thank you. All right, so as we look further, I'll try to look at the two countries in Asia that have a contrasting result on COVID-19. So I choose Indonesia and Taiwan. I do 2 respondents from policymakers and 2 from scholars. The policymakers is quite high position. I have interview with the digital minister of ROC and also Director General of the Information and Communication Indonesia from the Ministry of Communication and Information. So it's each of them has the view of the high-level high-level apparatus. So what they say can be represent their respective departments. So I also invite two scholars that has a critical mindset towards the government action. One from ROC, he has been questioned by the government towards what he's saying on Line, because Line is very popular in Taiwan. He's been questioned for political issues, so he's been very critical to the government. And the other one is from Indonesian scholars who are very well known for his data mining and data visualization. Someone who are working and owning the drone emprit, if you understand the person. I will not reveal the name, but you can feel what they have done with their jobs. Okay, okay, this is the field note from the Taiwan side. So from the Digital Minister of Taiwan. So he preferred to call she. She is don't like the use of fake news, so he preferred to use the disinformation. No special agency, according to him, no special agency provided by government to take disinformation. They have Taiwan Fact Check, MyGoPen as a member, IFCN. So there's an international fact check networks that is an NGO. So this Taiwan Fact Check, MyGoPen is running by a non-governmental organization in Taiwan. And then government emphasize on social innovation to counter disinformation. So they use what they call as humor, offer humor. So this is the highlight of the Taiwan strategy on combating the misinformation, disinformation. And it is safe to say, as they use Taiwan Fact Check, and they don't have any special agent to do the to counter the misinformation. What is the reason when I asked that? And they say, and she said, they want to choose to protect the democracy of Taiwan. So they choose not to have the special agency unit to counter-attack the misinformation. They rely on the third parties. In this case is Taiwan Fact Check and MyGoPen as a member of international fact check networks. And interestingly, they have the humor of a rumor here, as you can see in the poster. They use a dog to educate people about the COVID-19. Wash your hands, exercise more, eat fresh fruits. They use dogs. So they put humor of a rumor. So they put dogs here as humor. And now this dog has been a symbol of how to during the COVID-19. Remember the cover mouth, and they have another poster that said, if you please do a social distancing. Please stand 3 dogs behind you or in front of you. So the dogs is 3 and then 3 dogs. Rather than they put 2 meters each of you. They didn't say that. They say that 3 dogs length before you or after you. So it means that they use a humor over rumor strategy. And the other one from Indonesian side, I try to Minister of Communication Information. So contrastingly, the Indonesian have coordinated misinformation to tackle coordinated agency, government agency to tackle the misinformation. And contrast again, the Indonesian government emphasized on using law to combat hoax spreading. So it's quite different. Yeah? So the Taiwan using the third party and Indonesian use their own hands to combat hoax spreading. Protecting democracy is vital, but regulations should be enacted to preserve social order. So this kind of different perspective on how combating misinformation. And again, he said that Indonesia having a severe damage, Indonesian society having severe damage with the echo chambers phenomenon. Echo chambers phenomenon meaning that people tends to hear someone from their own side in terms of political choosing, political election. So they tend to have only listen to their own groups rather than reading the facts or listening to the facts. So that's something that puts the Indonesian government more on using law rather than emphasizing on the society. And this is for the scholars. He said that government has a special agency. So this is quite contrasting when I look at the Taiwan side. So from the government side, say they don't have a special agency, but from the scholar side, he said they have a special agency, and he said that I have an experience on how to be becoming interviewed by the intelligence, interviewed by the police officers regarding what I said when I criticizing government in the social media. So based on his experience, he believed that government has a special agency in combating fake news, but it's not as visible as in Indonesia. Admit that government has succeeded in combating infodemics, but short in other issues. So in Taiwan, infodemics is quite low because maybe the humor of rumor strategy works well there. It might work here, but it works well there. Misinformation might be issued by government or agency that has strong bond with government. So again, the scholars say that there's a third party that might be not the government, but they issued the misinformation just to support the government. Of course, Taiwan has a classical political condition where they have threat from overseas, in this case from PRC, from the mainland. So they have that kind of, in some of their society or citizens, they have that kind of mindsets. And from the Indonesian scholars, he also said that Indonesia have fact-checked that is self-funded. So it's quite similar to what Taiwan have. They have a third party. Indonesian have third party like Mavindo or Lawan Hoax one. So it's self-funded. He said as well, political contestation in 2014 and 2019 trigger of hoax circulation until now, even the infodemic as well. And person tends to believe information that is spread by his or her political cliques, as what I said before, it's an echo chambers phenomenon. So the Indonesian have the echo chambers phenomenon that also worsened by this COVID condition. So it might worsen the infodemics spread. So I might come to the conclusion that infodemic have worsened the COVID-19 pandemics. I think most of us agrees towards that, including the hoax, vaccine and anti-vax movement. Different issues have been introduced along the year 2020s, like I said before in the research result. Let's studies discuss about the information governance during pandemics. It's clearly yes, because most of them tends to say that no government action, no regulated action towards the information of pandemics. And I might say that information governance has treated differently in managing information disinformation COVID-19 in different countries. Like I said, when I highlight two of the Taiwan and Indonesia, even they have a different action towards on handling misinformation and disinformation. So I think that's my presentation on how the misinformation and disinformation handled during this pandemics, and also how the government reacts to that kind of misinformation and disinformation, and how the electronic government, in this case websites, are used to combat the misinformation and disinformation during pandemics. Any questions or feedbacks regarding what I've been said is welcome. or if you want to share about your experience in your own country and share with it your other friends here, that would be very beneficial to us towards this short course. Okay, any feedbacks or questions? Yes, Pak Levi.
Thank you, Pak Rino. I apologizing to all of you here because I can perform on cam at the moment because of chickenpox virus. Okay, how about yesterday news about including military to combating COVID in Indonesia? Because lawan COVID, sorry, kabar COVID at the Twitter say that they disagree with military includes in this term. Sorry, in this term, in this act. I mean, most of people disagree with military if they join to combating COVID in maybe in several act. But for me, I think we need military to force people to get vaccine, or maybe just following the rules to use mask or to wear mask, or maybe prokes, following prokes. So when kind of buzzer like lawan COVID said that military should be not included in this act, I think it's something worrying. How about this? Thank you, Pak Rino.
Okay, I might say that it might a little bit slightly different with I've been talking, but it's regarding how the military acts towards the COVID-19. I believe there's some theories saying that in developing countries, not in developed ones, military organization is one of the most sophisticated organization that works well. So that's some theories saying that in developing countries, not in the developed one. In that case, if the and in the modern times, military is not only for warfare, they also included in the how they can react to the national needs, like happens now with the COVID-19. And I see that the Indonesian military joining the COVID-19 battle by putting their soldier into the COVID-19 hospital, special hospital, and so on and so forth, as well as the vaccination process. As you can see, once they goes to the battle and the vaccination has reached a significant amount of vaccines that has been spread in Indonesia, because they have the modern organization and relatively have the one command, so it's easier than to rely on the provincial or the local government. So in that case, I say that military is used quite well in Indonesia in terms of handling the COVID-19 situation. But in terms of, if I'm not mistaken, your questions, in terms of using military or police as a buzzer is not the good idea, in my opinion, in any situation, because it will threat the democracy itself. So if you said before the buzzer, you said buzzer military and so on and so forth. In my opinion, if you invite military or police to be a buzzer, that will be a threat to democracy. So that's not a good idea, yeah. Even though it's for combating the COVID-19. Okay, thank you, Pak Levi. Francisca, any questions?
Yeah, thank you, Professor, for sharing and your explanation. I just want to share about the infodemics here in Taiwan. Oh, actually, the dogs that you mentioned before is a cartoon character. It's Shiba no Ya, if I'm not mistaken, and we call it like Shiba. And then here in Taiwan, I think the government provide the website for pandemic information, like all the information about the pandemic around the world. And then even they also provide like the timeline of the pandemic, timeline about the COVID-19, and then the borders policy and blah, 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 blah about that. And then as you mentioned before, we are here in using Line. So they also have that official Line that we can get more information, details information about the pandemic itself. And I think I can share the link about the website if you want to know more about it. Thank you, Professor. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Francisca. So so that's interesting facts that we know from Francisca from the first hand, that the Taiwan government flooding the society and the people with the adequate information before the misinformation comes to them. So they use the trusted CDC government. You mean cdc.gov.tw, Francisca?
Yeah, exactly. The website.
So the CDC website is quite full information in there. So if you want to go to Taiwan, most of the information you can get there. Even if you live there, and then they have like the electronic fencing one. So if you get the COVID, then your cell phone should be registered to government. And once you go anywhere in the Taiwan, then they will detect your cell phone.
Yeah, it's about the APP. So like almost everyone, I think, has that APP on their cell phone. So every time we are going somewhere, we need to scan a QR code, and then they will detect our location and detect our people around. If we have like interaction with someone who has test positive or like being a ODP, they will not give a notification for us.
Yeah. So the information, like I said before, if you have the information enough for the society, for the people, then they will not eat the misinformation or disinformation. They will not consume the misinformation, disinformation. So they will focus the information that's provided by government. So that strategy is conducted by Taiwan, and it works well, I think, so far. Thank you, Francisca. And considering the next presenter has already here, Dr. Priyambudi is already here. So I think Vivian will be in the last person who will ask questions. But of course, Chaya and Anisha, you can put your questions in the chat box, and then I will answer that on our discussion session. Or you can raise the questions on the discussion session. Yeah. Vivian, I invite you.
I'm not gonna ask question, but I want to input something. Because here in the Philippines, we've been like fighting or suffering from a lot of disinformation and fake news ever since Duterte won, or Duterte became the president of the Philippines. Because I think just like Trump, Duterte was able to won the election during 2016 because of the help of fake news, the help of Facebook trolls in Facebook, in YouTube, and now with COVID, we've been really suffering from it. Like a lot of people are like posting fake news about COVID, and now it's really hard because it's the government itself who's backing them up in order to spread this fake news in order to create misinformation and create disinformation among Filipinos. So now I think people are like organizing or uniting, for example, like reporting a fake news post or commenting to correct the information about it, and also like organizing and putting a Facebook page or any other way in order to like fact check this information. So yeah.
So do you have any fact check websites in the Philippines?
Yeah, I think I saw like I saw a Facebook page because I think Facebook is like a really top used here in the Philippines for
Okay.
information.
Does it run by government or does it run by third parties?
I think it's run by volunteers.
Oh, volunteers. Okay, so it's the same strategy with both in here and do government have the fact check facility, or they provide it or not? Or you don't know?
I'm not sure.
Okay, that might be something that we can discuss further in the discussion session. Thank you, Vivian. So again, the political contestation has led us to a more severe disinformation, including in COVID-19. So the Philippines case, that like Vivian said, has a similar pattern with Indonesia, when we have a political contestation that used the fake news, that used the social media warfare. It came out that the resulted echo chamber. So someone will only trust to one of their clicks phenomena in all of the aspect, including the pandemics as well. Thank you, Vivian. So I think my session has come to an end, and I will invite Dr. Priyambudi to be the next speaker. Dr. Priyambudi, are you around? Doctor, are you around? He's not here yet. So I think I will read his CV first. Dr. Priyambudi Sulistianto is a senior lecturer in the College of Humanities, Arts and Social Sciences, Flinders University, Adelaide, Australia. He is a political scientist, and he interests in the areas of Indonesian politics and comparative politics in Southeast Asia. And his current research is at the Politics of Reconciliation and Local Politics in Post-Suharto Indonesia, at the contemporary geostrategic perspective about Eastern Indonesia and Northern Australia. He got the funding from New Colombo Plan Research, and he has been organizing study tours for Flinders University students to visit Makassar, learning about the past indigenous links between South Sulawesi and Northern Territory. So his expertise is mostly about the politics in the Indonesia and Southeast Asia as well in Australia. Pak Priyambudi, are you around here now?
Yes, thank you, Pak Rino.
Okay.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon in Australia and Adelaide.
Yeah.
Maybe still morning in Indonesia.
How's the weather there, Pak Priyambudi?
It's very good. It's actually entering spring. Yeah? So we have passed the winter and now coming to spring, and yeah, it's good. Yeah, Adelaide is good. We've been lucky living in Adelaide because we haven't had lockdowns.
Oh, you
like
haven't lockdown.
Sydney. Yeah. Adelaide has been very lucky. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Alhamdulillah.
Good on you. Alhamdulillah. So Dr. Priyambudi here will talk about the Myanmar and ASEAN, where to go from now, and he will give you an insight on what happens from now about the two countries' relationship. So Dr. Priyambudi, without further ado, the time is yours for an hour. Thank you, Priyambudi.
Thank you, sir. And first of all, I'd like to thank you for organizer who been in contact with me a few months ago. And of course, I have to juggle with my teaching schedule. And fortunately, it's a good, quite free this afternoon here. And also thank you for introducing me with this new program. I think it's very good. And I checked the details of the programs and topic, and fascinating, and I'm very excited to share some of the thought that I'm having about very complicated issue in Southeast Asia at the moment. Let me begin with a bit of sharing some of the slide that you can see here. I hope you can see it, right? The reason I propose this topic is because I have been studying Burma or Myanmar quite a long time. Yeah, I'm one of the very few Indonesian scholars or researchers who interested even when I was student at your age, or some of you might still studying then in Indonesia. In 1988, if you were born there or before there, or Pak Reno and others might be remember, there was a big demonstrations to topple the Nevin government at that time. So 1988 was very important year for Myanmar after, since 1962, isolated herself from the rest of the world. So not many people understand, not many people visited, not many people can comprehend what happened then. But I was quite young, so I went to Thailand in the middle of 1988 for a conference actually in Bangkok and Chiang Mai. I was still finishing my law degree in Yogyakarta. And that trip opening up my eyes about what happened in Myanmar. So Burma at that time. And then I began to study. And then in early 90, I visited Bangkok and spent lots of time there. By then, there were many students from Myanmar or Burma who were stranded, looking for asylum seekers in many parts of the world, mainly Europe, United States, Canada, and Australia, who cannot return. So that generation, we call them as the 1988 student generation. Of course, Myanmar still, excuse me, under military until more or less throughout the 90s. Into the 2011, I guess, when something began to change. And in 97, Myanmar or Burma became member of ASEAN, and there was been lots of pulling, direction. The military wanted to be part of ASEAN, but the ASEAN has to give stick and carrot, and the rest of the world was opposing, and what we call then, of course, diplomatic kind of constructive engagement by ASEAN. The result of that, of course, Myanmar then begin to enter some kind of negotiated settlement, and then Aung San Suu Kyi was released from house of arrest, and then participate in election, and then the election of 2015 became the elections of course, first and foremost in Myanmar, but still did not produce what we call fully fledged democracy as we understood. At that time, of course, there was a theory that Myanmar military was trying to copy and paste of the old Indonesia's New Order model, in which 20% member of parliament are appointed, and therefore 75% member of parliament are elected, but with number of key positions in the control of the military. So that was basically what we call the model then written in the 2008 Constitution. So we call it in theory of democratic transition, perhaps half democracy, right? Or soft authoritarian, or whatever you call it, quasi-democracy. There's lots of theories. With the arrangement, which basically having more or less still military power in three important institutions: Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Home Affairs, Ministry of Border Security. Okay, three very important ministries. But the rest basically given to party that control the parliament. Of course, we knew that the party that controlled the parliament was Aung San Suu Kyi's political party, right? New League for Democracy. And therefore, the arrangement basically, the president given to NLD or NLD politician, and two vice presidents were given, one for military, one for representative from ethnic minorities. Okay, why ethnic minorities? Because Burma is basically a bit like Indonesia, is very multi-ethnic society, but much more diverse and has history of uneasy relationship with the center, with the military since independence. So, and that landscape, what we call half democracy based on the 2008 constitution, NLD won majority of the votes, okay? For many of you who study political science, who study democratic transition, of course, election is important because election is way in which member of parliaments can be elected and also about voices of the people, right? In theory, okay? So in reality, in 2015, NLD won about 77%. But then in November last year, we're talking about almost 10 months ago, NLD won rightly around 83%. That was basically humiliation for the military who, as you can see in the constitutional arrangement, control three ministries. Of course, there was a uneasy situation at that time to accept the reality that NLD won again, and there was also rumors spread around that with winning a big percentage, the NLD began to move towards reforming the constitution, making it 100% member of parliament basically elected, and also get rid of the military or push the military out of the politics, meaning like what happened in Indonesia in 2000. Yeah? If you are Indonesian, most of them, you might remember the TNI have to leave parliament or politics because therefore the concept Dwifungsi was abandoned and 100% member of parliament basically are elected. But the rumor spread around since November, December, January. I followed the event, but on the 1st February 2021, I was early morning here in Adelaide. I received message from a journalist in Jakarta trying to find me to be interviewed for what happened in Myanmar. At that morning, the military basically entered Parliament building and arrested the president and state chancellors, of course, Aung San Suu Kyi, and other politicians, and declared that military was then took over the power and promised to return back to civilian or some kind of transition in 1 or 2 years. But now it's almost 1 year. We haven't seen any progress there. And then, of course, that also raised a lot of questions. What happened in Myanmar? How come military coup emerged again? Okay, so the detail of the military coup basically like this. So in the constitution, there's a clause on emergency or state emergency status, which basically displayed 3 important reasons for the military to stage military coup or to overthrow civilian government. One is national disintegration, loss sovereignty, insurgency, and also widespread violence together with the insurgency. So those two reasons are written in the Constitution. But to do that, the president has to meet or declare with the consultation with National Defense and Security Council, which is basically stacked up with so many military officers. And then the process of transfer of power were given to Commander-in-Chief, which is basically like Panglima Tinggi TNI di Indonesia, ya, Pangti. And therefore, of course, General T is now in power. And then has to be only 1 year, can be extended. For this particular reason for declaring coup was basically, they believed that there was election frauds. There was election or electoral irregularities. Therefore, they believe wasn't free and fair election. However, there is no, as you can see in the Constitution, reason to stage coup based on electoral irregularity, or election fraud. The reason has to be three, as I mentioned earlier: national disintegration, loss sovereignty, insurgency, and widespread of violence. It's very much war themes, external and internal, but no election. Election is just, we call it, what we call in Indonesia, pemilu is like pemilihan umum, festival of democracy, right? But it was quite surprising that they use election frauds as reasons to stage coup. Okay, and they also require some declaration. And that declaration of coup basically was done by Vice President. In the Constitution, Vice President cannot declare the emergency status. Okay, so let me go to the next one. Who is the leader behind the coup? Okay, his name is General Min Aung Hlaing. What do we know about him? Okay, I'm just checking my time. He was born in July in 1956, where Burma was in the period, like Indonesia as well, an instability because of what happened in the post-independence period. He did a law degree and he became, or he entered Defense Military Academy in early 74. And then he became or joined the Tatmadaw, the military, Burmese military, and then did a tour of duties throughout, his career. But in 2011, he was asked by then Senior General Tan Swe, the last leader of that military before entering political transition, as the chief of the armed forces. So since 2011. And as we knew, middle of this year, he's supposed to be retired, right? And then of course did not happen, because then he became now the leader of the country. So he was also social media participant during this last 10 years of democratic kind of opening up. But then he was also the boss of the military, chief of the armed forces during the time when NLD-led government, currently they were the one that was toppled, began to run the country in 2015. He went through lots of political crisis, including he was basically accused to commit human rights abuses, even genocides, acts by the UN Human Rights Council in 2011. And then, of course, Aung San Suu Kyi actually defended him in the International Court of Justice. So what I'm trying to show here is that he is not just nobody. He has been watching from the side and participant in the last 10 years of uncertain democratic transition, or I call it half democracy, political kind of, setting, with judging that every time he can topple this government, that he basically was part of it. So he was basically inside, but as well as the one who execute the radical decision to topple this government. So then he declared, and on the 1st of February 2000 this year, as the chairman of State Administrative Council, and he promised to be there for 1 year. Okay, everyone follow me? Okay, so how did then the coup responded by regional organization? We know, of course, ASEAN was quite surprised at that time, but it was criticized. It was too slow to respond and did not respond immediately, etc., etc. The problem with ASEAN is not about the member of ASEAN, because member of ASEAN can say whatever they like, but as a grouping, ASEAN has its own weakness and strength. Okay, let's start with the weaknesses first. The weakness, as also the strength, can also be found in the principle underpinning ASEAN working, diplomatic protocol. ASEAN has so many layers of meeting, from the summit leaders, foreign minister, etc., until even at Director General level, but has committed to keep the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation. We call it TAC. Two very important principles, of course: non-interference, consultation, and consensus when it deals with crisis. However, in the chapter number 1.7, quote, to strengthen democracy, enhance good governance and the rule of law, and to promote and protect human rights and fundamental freedom. So actually, in the charter itself, has the power to do what is it says here, as I have said earlier. However, when it comes to execution of that principle, there's lots of things they have to do. They also have a protocol, but the ultimate decision-making process will be in the hand of ASEAN Summit as way of executing that principle on the ground. So, of course, it will take ages, because you have to call for meeting and the consensus have to be formed, etc. So at the end of the day, on the end of April, third week of April, I think 21st April 2001, ASEAN leaders, what they call summit, were held in Jakarta headquarters. I remember there's a lot of pros and cons. And that meeting, they came out with five points, including the appointment of ASEAN special envoy. And of course, 2 months later, only been discussed and announced that it was coming from Brunei Darussalam. So what I'm trying to say here is the decision process within the ASEAN was very slow and not very fast in responding the crisis. And as we have seen, they did not help, because on the ground, more people died and the crisis continue. On top of that, of course, Myanmar has to deal with COVID pandemic, situation like everybody else in Southeast Asia. But within the framework of ASEAN, there are institutions and protocol to handle that. The question is, how come they not do it very fast in the manner in which required to deal with the crisis? Okay, that is from the ASEAN point of view. But then some people or some group of organization or leading figures trying to bring the matter to UN. And the UN, of course, any decision on, intervention or on economic sanction, etc., has to go through Security Council, right? Which the member are major power. And not everyone, I guess, agree to support any sanction or any intervention because they cannot done it or cannot do it unless all member permanent, especially China, France, Russia, UK, and USA agree. And they are also non-permanent. At that time, as we know now, the Security Council president is actually in the hand of Vietnam. But if you look at in my PowerPoint note here, there are possibilities from the UN to investigate and to bring the case which have before to International Court of Justice and also United Nations Human Rights Commission. So those instruments can be used or have been used in the past. But when it comes to sanction, when it comes to intervention, because the group of people call for UN intervention directly on the ground, of course, it's not easy there. The UN basically said more or less, we have to respect what the ASEAN already addressed it or responded to that. So back again to circles in the circle one. Okay, there is basically two ways, we believe that although UN might have power through the charter that I can quote here to maintain international peace and security, therefore we can intervene, but it won't be very easy because of reasons that I mentioned, particularly not agreed by all members within the permanent members of Security Council. Okay, so now I'm laying down what then from now. Well, number one, put in this way, scenario one, perhaps the current military leader basically agree to organize what I call control election or manage election, and then removing all the leadership of the previous party leaders from NLD, and then current general then becoming civilian leader, take over any political parties, then becoming candidate for president in this what I call control election, which might happen either next year or year after, because they can make reasons for delaying. So basically, from from military general into civilian leader, a bit like what happened in Thailand, right? General Prayut was the one who led the coup in 2014, and then he became leader then and transformed into civilian leader, and then rewrite the constitution and then call another election where everything can be managed, then became prime minister as we know now in Thailand. Number two, perhaps this one still speculation. If the intervention of ASEAN succeeded, this is question mark, there will be perhaps close to free and fair election, with perhaps bringing new leaders from all political parties. Not removing, but making it start from zero again, where the contest for free and fair election with supervision from ASEAN as part of the deal can be done. Number three, we'll see the prolonged delaying election for the time being until created perhaps domestic and regional crisis. That would be the worst scenario, and I hope not happen, because any potential or any near future crisis in Myanmar will basically destabilize the region, because if you see war or internal conflict, you can see like what happened in the post-1988 crisis, where thousands of student refugees fled and crossed border to Thailand and India, Bangladesh, and also neighboring countries. And it was very bad. And now on top of that, we still even not finished or dealing with COVID-19. So this is what I can present to you. I hope we can have a discussion now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Priyambudi, for your presentation regarding Myanmar, where to now, as it is now quite sexy issues towards the Myanmar. So any questions? Bu Aning might be the first one who will ask for Pak Budi. Please, Bu Aning, time is yours.
Thank you, Pak Budi. May I call you Pak Budi?
Oh, please do.
Okay. Pak Budi, actually last night I read your journal confronting the past abuses in Indonesia and Southeast Asia. That one of the chapter is you discuss about the Myanmar and the reconciliation model.
Yes.
About that, yes. So regarding your question, your recommendation, I would like, where's the part of reconciliation in the election? Because I think when people have abuse in the past time, it means that it's hard to have a fair election, because of they still have like a unfair view about others. And the second one, where is the place of ASEAN Charter in this Myanmar cases? Thank you, Pak.
Yes, I guess let me tell a little bit of the article was basically out of date by now based on what happened then. But I guess reconciliation is very nice word, but it's very difficult to be implemented, because any reconciliation effort will have to be accompanied, or at least before we reach reconciliation, there are many stages. Both sides have to coming to terms, and then both sides have to meet and exchange their version of what happened in the past, and willing to find a middle path. And of course, finding middle path, you need to find if there are cases of human rights abuses has to be tackled. If there are other ways accompanied with the judicial, also non-judicial avenue can be proposed, maybe establishing Truth and Reconciliation Commission, and then also reparations and restitution processes has to be accompanied, because you have to give some form of compensation, some form of redressing all these factors. It did not happen yet, because the military always insisted that what they did in the past was in the name of unifying the country, etc. You know, we have that kind of attitudes toward what happened in the past in Indonesia's modern history as well. So ASEAN as a regional organization, because of the limitation that I have mentioned earlier, its own principle that underpin the way in which ASEAN can work, also limited role of ASEAN to find ways. However, as I said, the ultimate decision-making process within ASEAN is ASEAN Summit, the leader summit, basically. They can actually do it. But in the 5 recommendations or 5 points that they agreed to engage or to do with Myanmar at the moment, the Myanmar leaders did not actually respect it. So even as we're talking now, there's been discussion of even not inviting Myanmar leader for the next summit. So that is the first step of ASEAN actually quite not happy with what happened in Myanmar. But you have to understand that process is very slow. So to answer to your question, my argument is we have to be both. One, we put pressure. Number two, we also have to engage because Myanmar can go, I think some of the chat here mentioned, can go north to China, can go somewhere else. And ASEAN is quite aware about that potential of conflict in Myanmar can also be subject of geopolitical rivalries. So has to be careful, slow. Many human rights scholar, who I knew and even myself cannot understand why so slow. But we still need the engagement, to be honest. Internally, I guess political or restoration of institution of democratic path has to be restored. I'm not saying we'll have to go for free and fledged election. We might have to have some kind of control election first, and then move to slowly into some kind of a bit mature democracy. But there is another discussion not in this part. So at the moment, I think we are in stalemate. We cannot know where to go, and we are basically facing two. One is inability of ASEAN to deal with this crisis fastly, and number two, still finding ways in which how conflict resolution can be found in Myanmar. I hope, Mbak Aning, I can answer that question.
Yes, of course, Pak. Thank you, Pak Budi.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, Bu Aning. Can I invite as well Anielo to ask the question as you have already raised hand? Please, Anielo.
Thank you, Pa, for your presentation. I think it was really interesting for me because I'm focused on ASEAN study. And my question is about the democracy, because you say ASEAN to have like need to in a chapter they need to send them freedom, democracy, and so on. However, there is no freedom country, a democracy country in Asia. I mean, all Asian countries are or authoritarian regime, or under oligarchy regime, or under or are fragile democracy, like more or less. So my question is, maybe Asia need to be recreate, like for example, need to be under democracy institution, like every country in Asia, in Asia, or want to join ASEAN need to be the democracy. This will be the first step for like in European Union, like European is based on democracy situation. So if you are not democracy, you cannot join European. So it will be the same, or ASEAN will be one solution, or not. Because I think there is problem. I mean, it's easy to speak like a democracy, but if you are not democracy, how you can promote democracy if you are not democracy? I mean, why, for example, Thailand will support will to criticize Myanmar coup if Thailand itself at the coup? Or how, for example, Singapore can criticize like censorship if Singapore is itself a strong use of censorship of social media. I mean, one solution will be the recreate of ASEAN more on based on democracy. Thank you. I don't know if it's clear.
Okay, Anilo, thank you. That was a good question. I think has to be honest, ASEAN as a regional organization was born or was established at the time when Southeast Asia was in the midst of Cold War. Remember the Vietnam War and the conflict left by basically rivalries between then Soviet Union bloc and the United States in her bloc. So, and then the expression of the conflict happened in Vietnam War, even in Indonesia and most of Southeast Asia. So you have to understand at the time the context in which ASEAN was born. But then there was a desire, member of ASEAN 5 at the time, original one, to make ASEAN or Southeast Asia as a neutral, free from conflict, and therefore can focus on economic development and political stabilities. So 70s, 80s, slowly, and 90s, the only last war and conflict that ASEAN was participate to end was Cambodian conflict. I was in Thailand, end of 1990, and then the agreement signed in Paris, the Paris Agreement, around end or early December 1990. Since then, we did not have any war, big major war involving China, America, Europe, and everywhere. There were conflicts, within the member of ASEAN here and there, like in Timor-Leste, insurgency in southern Philippines, in Myanmar, but not big war. So it's basically relatively peace and stable region. Democracy is quite complicated because the member of ASEAN are diverse. Some of them very democratic, some of them we call it soft authoritarianism. Some of them, not two of them, of course, monarchy, Brunei Darussalam, and single party country, like Vietnam, Laos, and Myanmar joined later from military to civilian, quasi-civilian. So we cannot give precondition to joining ASEAN based on democracy, because otherwise, doesn't work or did not work. So the answer to your question is better to have diverse group that we have to work hard to make, unity within the group, so long as not cause another war or political instabilities. Particularly now, because the potential big war can happen in South China Sea if we cannot, or ASEAN cannot manage. So having another war, having another major conflict will not in the mind or in the principle underpin ASEAN. So potential conflict can be addressed as long as there are cooperation between both sides within the framework of unity of ASEAN. Because at the moment, even dealing with South China Sea, member of ASEAN not into one direction. Cambodia have its own opinion, the Philippines, Vietnam, even Indonesia, which not in the line of border, also quite nervous because of close to Natuna Islands, which many of live in Indonesia, is very rich, and they belong to Indonesian territory. So yeah, the democratic or democracy as key key member, key issue to be member, I don't think it will work. Remember, ASEAN is not European Union, it's a different. We always confuse, ASEAN is quite different, not like EU. EU has long history since the post-war, and economic power is quite different. ASEAN is not, because you have rich like Singapore, and then you still have poor country like Laos, or very diverse. So it's not like EU. So any comparison, I don't think is very useful in this regard. Sorry, I hope we have a different opinion, but that's what I can say.
No, I agree. I mean, I just really confused how For example, ASEAN can reaction this coup. For example, I mean, there is a coup in Myanmar, then Myanmar enjoy ASEAN. Okay,
Yes.
so what ASEAN will do? I mean, it is not democracy and freedom of expression. This means whatever happening in every ASEAN country is not ASEAN responsibility. So, for example, if tomorrow Indonesia be military regime, it's okay. It's a problem of Indonesia. It's no problem ASEAN. Need this. We need to read this about this. This whatever actually in ASEAN country, cope or not cope, is not ASEAN problem. Unless ASEAN we work. This is the ASEAN goal.
Yeah, so I call it the curse of ASEAN, is because of ASEAN have the two principles, non-intervention and consultation and consensus. Maybe we need to get rid of that principle, but that principle also make ASEAN still survive until today, compared to other regional grouping like in Central America, Latin America, or Middle East, or other part of the world. You know, I'm not comparing with EU, but that principle may be being criticized, but then that principle also make ASEAN actually survive until how many now? 50 something years, right? Since 67. So now even much bigger, you know, issue. So, you know, I don't know, you know, with Myanmar as my topic is presented to me here, is basically a test case. If ASEAN cannot handle Myanmar, basically we'll see the disunity or maybe reform within ASEAN principle. I don't know, yeah. It's new generation of leaders now. Foreign ministers generation that not belong to the Cold War kind of, you know, mentality. You know. Retno Marsudi is one of the top female Indonesian foreign minister we ever have. She's very respected, dynamics, and travel around to get view and support, and also pull the string as well. So it's a, you know, Indonesia has a stake here. You know.
Thank you for the answer. Very helpful.
You're welcome. Sama-sama. I hope it's useful, eh? Pak Rino.
Yeah, it's insightful, Pak Budi. So it gives us more understanding about what happens in Myanmar in recent days. Any more questions?
I do have a comment, but are these students postgraduate or undergraduate?
I think it's
graduate and postgraduate.
Yeah,
Masters
so
and bachelor.
how come the study of Southeast Asia are not very popular in Indonesia? Because I traveled to Burma and Myanmar and even Vietnam. Yeah, Vietnam learn and seriously develop expertise on Indonesia, and Indonesia should also study, like, you know, seriously about Thailand, Myanmar. I was one of the few, but I like to see younger generation actually to study the language, and also we need to put resources, you know, research for Southeast Asia, because when I was in Thailand, they always learn about Indonesia and surprised. Like my Thai friend said, how come Indonesian military so powerful but never launch a coup like in Thailand? I smile. Oh, maybe different way of, you know, influencing. Doesn't have to be rolling the tank and you know, and then
right.
you know, it's other things, you know, and
Yeah.
also on foreign policy, you know.
Yeah.
But
That might
anyway,
be-
I'm not trying to be, you know.
That might be an insightful way for the students here to look at the closer neighbor on our neighbor on the foreign policy or their policy itself. I'm sorry, Pak Budi, but there's a raised hand here from Bian. Bian, any questions that you want to raise to Dr. Priyambudi here, to Professor Priyambudi?
Yeah, Bian.
Yes, Farino, I have a question for
Yes, please.
Pak Priyambudi. Maybe from your explanation, I got some it explained about the issue in Myanmar, and
Yes.
it related with the democracy, I think. But I'm going to ask about how do you respond to the term of democratic decline, kemunduran demokrasi, that was occurred in several countries, maybe in Myanmar itself. And as we know that democracy means allowing citizens of a country to have participation in the affair of the country. This also related with the human rights violation if there are several countries that restricted the right of citizens to take part in their government. Thank you.
Okay, but
Yes.
before you answer, there are some questions raised through the chat from let's say like from Kefalvian here. He or she had 3 questions. Kefalvian, are you here? Are you going to ask for Dr. Priyambudi by yourself? Please.
Test.
Okay.
Yeah, go
yes.
ahead.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. All good.
I'm not good in speaking, so
It's okay.
better someone read my question. Thank you.
So
Sorry.
which one? Will Myanmar coup lead and like Sudan coup, which
You
some
have 3
agreement can
questions,
achieve?
Kefal. So which one do you think is the
Or
most?
on China?
Oh, wait. I'm prefer question number 2. Will China also reveal your hand on Myanmar, same like
Right,
in
okay.
Cambodia?
Okay.
So I
I'll
think the
try to
second one.
answer that.
Okay. Another one is from Arif Darmawan. Arif Darmawan, are you here? So Arif Darmawan is just above the Kefalvian
How does
questions,
actually
but
other
yeah.
member of countries of ASEAN should react or do something regarding about
Okay.
Myanmar crisis? Thank you.
All right, Dr. Priyambudi, I think you can answer them now. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll start with Arif Darmawan and then I'll start, I'll Pian as well, and then Kefal Fian. So I think member of, this is the good thing and also bad thing. Member of ASEAN can say whatever they like about Myanmar. Thailand has her own opinion because close border, they didn't want to have too much confrontational view because, you know, anything that happened in Myanmar, Thailand will affect it like in the past. So, and also Thailand also have similar kind of situation where military also very powerful, right? Except of course, Myanmar doesn't have monarchy. So, and then further away like Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia, or the Philippines can be critical because we're not sharing border or we have our own view about that. So the answer to Arif's question, yes, they have had views on different things. But I think our conversation here is to make it work has to be in the framework of ASEAN because the ASEAN is regional organization in which Myanmar member. So have to have collective view. Slow, as you know, but there is the protocol and there is why in which ASEAN and Myanmar has not been able to find a solution at the moment as we speaking. About China is good question. Of course, I did not mention much except on the Security Council. Okay, China has always interested in having strategic access from Yunnan province to the Andaman Sea or Sea of Andaman through either building railway line or toll road that connecting Western China, province of Yunnan, to the Sea of Indian Sea via Andaman. It's not just now, but has always been there in the strategic thinking. So China will be a partner of whoever regime rule Myanmar, be military, democratic, because in the point of view of China's strategic interest does not really matter. I'm dealing with authoritarian or democratic as long as China's interest to have the access can be pursued. And of course, we all know that the development of the infrastructures already began and will continue to take shape through, through the Belt and Road scheme. Even Indonesia has that scheme as well, yeah, building up faster train from Bandung to Jakarta, right? So that is the answer. So of course, perhaps the expression is this: well, peace and stability is more important in Myanmar for China, because that would guarantee the interest or strategic interest of China. Similar in Cambodia, because access to Gulf of Thailand as well through building railway line from Laos, Cambodia, all the way to Gulf of Thailand. Last from the third question from Bian, democratic decline and also human violation. There is no democratic government anyway so far in Myanmar. What happened in the past 10 years were more or less half democracy, or we call it in literature soft authoritarianism or pseudo-democracy, because when we talk about democratic system, has to be based on 100% member of parliament are elected, not appointed. Indonesia been through under then Suharto for 32 years, instituted the model of duifungsi, dual function of the military. 25% member of DPR and whatever, throughout Indonesia were appointed of active military officer. So there was no democracy. They call it democracy Pancasila, whatever their name, but in the context of 100% member of parliament has to be elected, it's not in that Kali question. So therefore, democratic decline meaning has never been democracy anyway in the way that we understood it. Because in the democratic system, political party systems are the the working pillars of democracy everywhere. Even in authoritarian or semi-authoritarian, they still need parliament. The sort of parliament that they have, of course, unelected. Many of them are appointed. So you can rewrite constitution based on that. And human rights violations, of course, happened because there was no mechanisms of dealing with those who violating human rights, because supposed to be, those who violating, or engaged or committed human rights violation has to be brought to court or special court. The UN always have, some human rights special court, or even in Indonesia now we also have special human rights law that can establish human rights court, but it's very hard to establish that because you need to have enough data and support to make that happen. So it's always unusual to gain success on that. So if you look at in both democratic decline and human rights violation, you have basically ingredient that did not exist in Myanmar, even in the past 10 years. However, there were generations that emerged in the past 10 years because there was an opening up political corridor, enable young generation like you guys, or all of us here, to have access to international news through different forms of platform in the social media as well as normal media. It's quite free, and that generation of course, did not want to see Myanmar back to authoritarianism because they found the freedom and exchange and and showing their views that allowed to open in the past 10 years in the process of this transitional to democracy in Myanmar. So to take that generation away again, back under military rule like in the past, will be impossible. Therefore, they still resist until today, young generation in Myanmar. I wanted that freedom that I only begin to experience in the past 10 years. I don't want to take it back again. You military took our freedom off from the, social media or expression on the street through protests, etc. So we have to see that in that pictures. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak
Okay.
Priyambudi.
All right, thank you, Pak Priyambudi, for your insightful answer. So I believe there are still some questions that need to be raised by the audience, but the time is up. So I think we can have a big applause to Dr. Priyambudi. We can give a big virtual applause to him after his explanation towards the Myanmar condition right now. So any more? So thank you, Dr. Priyambudi. So you can proceed with your activities on Australia and keep safe, stay safe, and keep healthy. Good day.
Good day. Thank you.
Yeah.
I have to go to another Zoom.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you,
All
Pak
right.
Budi.
Bye-bye, Yun.
All right. If you want to say a wave to Dr. Priyambudi, you can do it now. Okay, he already left. All right. So we come to another session of discussion. So I think Mas Alif will explain something before I say start the discussion. Mas Alif, are you around?
Yeah, Pak Rino.
Yeah.
Okay. I made your time. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Okay. Maybe I think I have already sent the student discussion groups in email, and I also have been informed by the director that we have another session on this day pertaining to the discussion group. So I would like to beg to all students here to maybe rename the name to input the number group in front of the name. For example, group 1 underscore Alif Alauddin, or group 2 underscore Alif Alauddin. So the committee will be actually divide you until the certain group you are working on. Maybe that's the information I will deliver to the students, Pak Rino, to rename, to change their name actually into the group they are working on. So maybe the committee will divide them into the group.
Okay. Is that all, Mas Alfian?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
So again, I will reiterate what Mas Alfian said. Please put the group number in front of your name, so the committee will be easily move you to the correct group discussion. So before I proceed with this discussion, I will answer some questions raised by Chaya. As far as I know, I experienced there are still a lot of people who rather believe in hoax than using fact checker, and sometimes they even use their distrust to the government as their reasoning, and sometimes these people will also spread this hoax even more. So my question is, how can we actually cope this problem? Because this case right now is about COVID, most of it out that actually can also affect them. So the first thing is, let it stop in you, at you. So don't spread the false information further. Let it stop at you, and don't spread it to somebody else. And ask your friends to do that as well. So it is a long fight against the misinformation. We need to be patient and we need to stay positive. Secondly, from Anissa Humaira, the COVID-19 pandemic has raised concern about the freedom of speech in Indonesia. Freedom of speech is being challenged from two directions at once. First, from those who take advantage, and second, from those who argue for the existence of disinformation and hate propaganda. Those should be freedom of speech be limited. This is a hard question. So freedom of speech be limited? No, I believe no, but we need to give a more digital literacy on how digital ethics works, so that someone will not do harmful saying to others in a digital world. So I think there are some answers from your questions. And I believe it now comes to the discussion session. So we will have a 15-minute discussion among your group. It will be an easier things to do. So I will share it to you. So this is the discussion sheet that you need to discuss with your friends. Compared to countries' strategies on combating infodemics, it might be Indonesian and Philippines, Indonesian and Taiwan, and so on and so forth. And you can answer by this. Do they have one fact checker on pandemic? Who run the website? Is it the third parties, or is it the government, or someone else? And how does it work? Is it social media website, or do they include influencers? So you can do this by just fulfilling all the comparing between the two countries. But if you think you need to give more comments on it, then you can put it in the comment section. So I will share this worksheet to you through the chat facilities right now, if you don't mind. Then see the profiles. Okay, send. It's going to use. Okay, wait. I need to turn off that thing first. Okay, send to your to the chat room from this Zoom facilities. So you can go to your room now and try to discuss with your friends. I hope I have more insight on how fact checkers works in a different country setting. Okay, see you then in like 15 minutes. So we'll gather again in 11:20 a.m. in the morning. See you guys.
You may join the breakout rooms, dear students. It's been opened for you. For those who are still in the main room, I invite you to the breakout room so you can attend and discuss with your fellows pertaining to the topic which has Parino explained before. Please.
Any problem, Mas Alif? Or
some students are not joining yet to the breakout room.
All right.
Yeah. So I inform them. Please, Alfian, Kevin, which group are you in? Sorry.
Group 6.
Yeah, you may join the group 6.
Yes, already.
Okay, and the others, I will try to assign the students into their group. Okay, that's key. For those who are still in the main room, are you have seen the group which I have been sent to you in email?
I'm alone at the breakout room.
Ah, oh, really?
Can you please help me break out to room to group 5?
Yeah, the group rep is they are Ezra Mayora and Fairuz Samawati. You can move into your certain group. And the others, maybe Koko Komarudin, Mr. Koko, are you there? You can please join the breakout room that I have already divided you into certain group. And also Hana Sausen, Falur Niam, and Faisal Fatimah. Okay, maybe Mr. Arif, you can join to the group 6. It's been already for you. Please accept the invitation, so you may join to the group better. Yeah, maybe Pak Arif, you can accept the invitations. It is automatically bring you to the 6th group. Yeah, okay. And also Fadliun Niam, are you there? Ustaz Fatima, are you there? Once you have accepted the invitation, you will be automatically brings into the groups 3. Zokotima, are you there? And Hannah Sausen, Aliuniam. Yeah, okay. So Otima, you can accept the invitation, so it will be automatically bring to you the group 3. Can you accept the invitation? Yeah, okay, Arifato, I will. Okay. Arifatut, are you there? We have already invited you to the group 4, so you may accept the invitation. And it will be automatically to the group. And Hannah Sausan, are you there? Hannah Sausan. Okay, Arif, I will assign you to the group 4. Please accept the invitation, Laila. Miss Arifatul Toiba. I have already sent the invitation, so you can accept that. It will bring automatically to the group. Okay. Any others? Saluniam, are you there? Okay, it seems that you are absent in this session. Sorry. Adiba Fariza, which group are you working on? Yeah, okay.
Aku takkan pernah berhenti, akan terus memahami, masih terus berpikir bila harus memaksa.
5 menit lagi ya Mas Alif ya.
Berdarah untukmu, apapun itu asal kau mencoba menerimaku. dan kamu hanya perlu terima dan tak harus memahami dan tak harus berpikir, hanya perlu mengerti. Aku bernafas untukmu, jadi tetaplah di sini dan mulai menerimaku. Cobalah mengerti semua ini, mencari arti, selamanya takkan berhenti. Inginkan, rasakan, rindu ini menjadi satu. Biar waktu yang memisahkan dan kamu hanya perlu terima dan tak harus memahami dan tak harus berpikir, hanya perlu mengerti. Aku bernafas untukmu, jadi tetaplah di sini dan mulai menerimaku. Oh, cobalah mengerti semua ini, mencari arti, selamanya takkan berhenti. Inginkan, rasakan, rindu ini menjadi satu. Biar waktu yang memisahkan cobalah mengerti semua ini, mencari arti, selamanya takkan berhenti. Inginkan, rasakan, rindu ini menjadi satu. Biar waktu yang memisahkan, cobalah mengerti semua ini, mencari arti, selamanya takkan berhenti.
Bu Yunes, are you around? Bu Yunes.
support the teaching and learning process and promote the academic achievement of all students, lecturers, and researchers. With a comfortable learning environment, a green campus, and supported by an integrated information system, Universitas 11 Maret has an academic culture that fosters a global perspective and is prepared for Education 4.0. Active and strong international partnerships and collaborations have become an integral part of the university. International partnerships provide opportunities for student and staff mobility, as well as collaborative research and community service projects. In addition to being a center of excellence, Universitas 11 Maret is home to students from all 34 provinces in Indonesia and 33 countries in the world. This creates a multicultural environment that promotes mutual understanding. Embracing diversity and respecting all cultures makes every student feel recognized and valued.
Pak Rino, mohon maaf, Pak Rino.
Kelompok maksudnya di mana?
Pak Rino, Assalamualaikum.
Lainnya udah dapat kok dia nggak dapat sih?
Assalamualaikum, Pak Rino.
Oke, ya. Ya.
Pak Rino, Assalamualaikum.
Yeah. I don't know. The other groups have already got the worksheet, but then.
Pak Rino, Assalamualaikum.
Okay, I'll try to ask the Pak Rino for the worksheet because
Pak Rino, Assalamualaikum.
the worksheet is in his hand. So.
Pak Rino, are you there? Pak Rino.
Nah, lainnya dapat worksheetnya dari mana?
Hello, see you again, guys, from Group 6. Have finished discussion, Group 6?
Yes, already we finished the discussion.
Already
Prof.
finished discussion. Thank
Yes.
you.
You're welcome.
Oh, you might want to share your findings with others. So, where do you compare with?
Actually, we compare the country between Indonesia and New Zealand.
And New Zealand, and how is the result?
The result is the country is quite similar to provide the information with through the application. And then they also use the influencer to give the more impact for the people using the social media. I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how do they use? They use the social media or they use websites?
Both of them.
Both of them. So government have the fact checkers.
Maybe Aning can explain more about, because he is the spokesperson. He is the spokesperson of our group.
Okay, Bu Aning, please welcome.
No, actually they appointed me, Pak Rino.
That's good.
No, but actually it's very limited time to explore what happened in New Zealand compared to Indonesia in COVID handling, especially infodemics. However, we try that we have a similarities like Mas Arif said, that we use influencer, the government become the leader to combat the hoax, and also New Zealand use social media like a Facebook, seems like Indonesia that have Instagram account lawan COVID-19_ID also. What we find it a little bit different is the using of influencer. In New Zealand, they use influencer at very beginning, Pak, from the social restriction. So the lockdown policy are campaign. I say campaign because it's structure, campaign by the influencer. So it's a little bit different with Indonesia, because Indonesia use influencers start from vaccination. Correct me if I'm wrong. So the New Zealand government constantly use influencer because they realize that influencer message have direct effect on the people than government policy. That's our findings, Pak. Thank you, Pak Rino.
Okay, thank you, Bu Aning. So it's interesting that we see a comparison between New Zealand and Indonesia. So for those who are just rejoining this group, we just share the Group 6 results of discussion. So they share, they compare between Indonesia and New Zealand, and they say that we have similarities. Indonesia have similarities with New Zealand in terms of using the influencers and the official government websites, as we do here. But the difference are they use the influencers at the very beginning of the pandemic. So since the very first time the COVID attacks us, they use the influencer. Am I right, Tuani? Okay, I thank you for Group 6 for sharing their knowledge and discussion on comparing the two countries. Another group maybe, Group 4 or 2? Someone want to share about their findings? Other than New Zealand, so it might be interesting. I invite Francisca and her group to share the findings, maybe.
Thank you, Professor, but I think I'm still waiting for my friends to join for the main session.
Okay.
Just she keep the notes. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Or Group 2, Pak Rizky and friends, Bu Eli can share their findings or their discussion here with all of the colleagues.
I still waiting my friends in this breakout room. So.
Okay, thank you. Or group 7 wants to share the findings. Group 7.
I think I will share my platform Italy and
Okay.
the platform Philippines because we chose Italy, Italy than Philippines.
Okay.
So for Italy, I think there is we talk about the spreading disinformation in Italy, especially from the right party, because we don't have like proper like trolls or boots in Italy, but we have like really party people from party right and left. They spread information from the website. But the difference is if we use from Facebook on Twitter, for example, if I want to talk about many information about, for example, I attack you. I mean, like attack, like I'm from the right party and I attack the LGBT group. I use more Twitter for share my information. But if you want to use propaganda, I use Facebook. In the otherwise, for example, if I want, if I am a member of a Nazi party or fashion party, I use Telegram because Telegram is not really touchable like WhatsApp or Facebook on Twitter. This is why in Italy is illegal the spread of then promoting fascism. So with Telegram is more easy for this group share information about fascism, Nazi, and make a group.
Okay.
About who is the protagonist of this information? It's the right party, especially is a national and conservative party. That means they and against in Italy about is on immigration, Islam, and LGBT or gay rights. For example, the last issue really important was the law against the verbal abuse on LGBT group. So this was a big problem because the party was, the government was split, who want, what you don't want, especially the right party. So the law passed on the lower camera, but was blocked on the high camera. So we don't have now the law against the LGBT group, but the important thing was how the influence, especially influence from who support LGBT, have a key rule. They mean they help to share information about it is how to make more sensitive about the LGBT and gender problem in Italy. So it was a key rule, but doesn't work because the right party blocked the law in the high camera. Another important rule for influence, if almost influence are singer or models, almost. They talk about, for example, immigration, how to help immigration, why we are all similar. The same way when you talk about people from Muslim people, and because there are like a conflict, especially on the woman, because many right party, especially woman right party, speak how there is like abuse from Islam on the woman. So there is a lot of talk show that where they spoke about, for example, why in Islam, for example, the woman are sodomised by the men. Then if we put this in democracy, European ideology is true, but we need to think about how it's not true from the people that come from almost from North Africa. So the problem is like sensitize this issue. They use influence. Otherwise, right party use another influence for make this information, make like a war against people don't want Islam or LGBT. I think this is my Italy.
Okay, thank you, Anili. So in short, the government provide fact checkers for this kind of fake news?
It's not it's like, for example, like I don't see like boots in Italy. It's not, it's like if they, for example, leader parties have social media manager. They provide what right on Facebook. For example, there was the last election. There is like the name is Lega Party. Lega Party have this leader. Behind this leader, these are social media really powerful. He know how what rise, when rise, and how rise, and it was really important because this party grew from 5% to 30% in 6 months. So it's more like to use social media manager how to communicate to people.
Okay. Yes. Thank you, Aniele, for sharing with us insights from Italy on how the social media used in there. And again, this is the findings where political contestation, political discussion has all led to a more divided and facilitated by digital media, such as like Anil said, using Telegram, using Twitter. Even they have certain strategies. If you want to attack someone, we use Twitter, and if you want to do the propaganda, they use Facebook. So again, it is something that is we need to aware about the rise of the social media use in providing misinformation. All right, thank you, Anil. Can I invite Vivian? I think Vivian from the same group with you, like Anil.
Yeah.
Okay, Vivian, please, you can share your
I think
insight from Philippines.
Anti-vaccine misinformation or like people against the vaccine started since 2016, or I think because of the Deng Baksha case. If you're familiar with that, so for now they are using that kind of rationale again to use it against the vaccine. So a lot of people are afraid to get vaccines because they're afraid of dying. They're afraid of the side effects of the vaccines. I think in Italy, he mentioned that a lot of people who are against the vaccine is because of the level of education. But for me, what I experienced is so I went to the province. I have relatives who have a higher educational attainment, but they are against the vaccines, and some even do not believe in COVID itself because of the misinformation they are getting, like the misinformation they're getting from the social media, especially on Facebook, saying that COVID is just made in order to spread fear on people, and these vaccines are just used to control people. So I think it's really different experience from a third world country and also a European country, because I think here in a developing country, Philippines is a third world country, and a lot of us are really lining up, really going to the vaccination centers and really hoping to get the vaccines, because we know the healthcare system here in our country is not really good. Unlike in other developed countries, in the first world countries, that they have hospitals to cater the whole population of the city, the whole population of the town. Here in our country, we don't have that kind of healthcare system. So for us, it's only the vaccines that will be able to help us fight or be strong and not be able to get this COVID. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, Vivian. Vivian sharing about most about the vaccine and the vaccine issues in the Philippines and how to tackle such misinformations towards that. Any other groups that want to share? Group 2 maybe, or group 4? Group 5?
Yeah, Professor.
Okay. Yes, please, Francisca.
Yeah, I will present from group 4. For we take Indonesia and Taiwan for the comparison, and then for Taiwan itself, do they have fact checker on pandemic, I just take it. Yeah, we have that Taiwan Fact Check Center, and it's run by the government. And also, as I mentioned before, we have the official line for @line fact checker. I think it's also run by the government under the run by the CECC, Center Epidemic Command Center, under the CDC, Center for Disease Control. And then I think for the infodemics here in Taiwan, they spread the information through the official website and then official social media, especially for Twitter and Line. And do they include influencers? I'm not sure about this question, but I don't think so. Yep, that's all I think. Thank you.
All right, thank you for your answer, Francisca. Any more from another group? So Francisca here told us about whether in Taiwan, actually they have the fact checkers that suspiciously running by the government, right, Francisca? And also they also have a line channel for combating the fake news as well. Next group, maybe group 1 or group 2. Wanna share?
Okay, may I, Mr. Rino?
Yes, sure, Rizky. Time's yours.
Okay. In my group, in this comparison, I think the handling of countries that are struggling to deal with this pandemic is quite good. In my group, the comparison is in developing countries such as the Netherlands and Malaysia. The Netherlands has an official website platform from the government. Malaysia is the same, but in the Malaysia there is news media in this informed to this preventing this pandemic, from many blogs, many journals and many medias. And in this Malaysia providing this application in this sebenarnya.my, in this many application in this install in this smartphone, in this platform PC, and I think it's good enough preventing this struggling in this pandemic in this condition. That's enough, Mr. Rino.
Okay, thank you, Mas Rizky. So there's a comparison between Netherlands and Malaysia. Generally, they have a website that's run by government, and they have like a special media. Am I right? In Malaysia context. So okay, it feels like we have some comparison now between countries. More from, I think, from group 1 maybe.
Group 3, okay.
Okay, group 3, okay.
Okay, thank you. For group 3, we have Indonesia and South Korea. For South, fact check snu.ac.kr, and then for Indonesia we have some like Mavindo, and then check fact from Tempo, and then from Liputan 6, and then check fakta.com. For South Korean, who run the website, it's from university, South Korean National University, and then from Indonesia, I think Tempo is private, not government, yeah. And then how does it work? South Korean mostly from websites, and from Indonesia we have sometime in Facebook, and then website as well. Do they include influencers? In Indonesia, there is some influencer including in this work, and from Korea, maybe we lose that. Thank you.
Okay, there's similarities, right, between the countries, but Indonesia have third parties, usually private parties like Tempo and other news media channel that also tries to combat corruption, combat the fake news. It means that governments tries to invite the private sector to join in, especially in the media giants, to join how to combat the fake news. I think that's some of the highlights from Group 3. Any other response from Group 5? Or maybe Group 5 can share. Fesemboa, maybe you can share something
Yes, sir.
from the perspective of your country, please.
Okay. Initially, the government and the influencers were supposed to help each other, but since they were the influencers, I don't know how they got in hold of information that was invalid, but they decided that the vaccine was there to kill us or something like, because I'm from an African country, so majority of the African people believed that vaccines, the COVID-19 vaccine was supposed to come kill us. But then it was not, that is not the issue. But the influencers decided that it's there to kill us and it's not good for us. And how could they find a vaccine so fast for COVID if we have HIV, they haven't even found a vaccine, and we have cancer that have been trying to do research and etc. But then as time went on, the government tried to ensure the people, the government worked on their own by doing campaigns, websites, reaching the people in the rural areas, doing the most by making sure everybody understood the vaccine, gave them the side effects, just giving the right information towards the people and giving the statistics of if you have the vaccine, how will you survive it? It doesn't say per se you will never get coronavirus, but it prevents you from being in severe. So as time went on, people slowly started to get vaccinated and believed in the theory of vaccine is really there to save us. And surely, but surely the influencers themselves also got vaccinated. So it has been a struggle at the beginning, but majority of us are now vaccinated.
Okay, thank you for your sharing. So interesting experience from Africa here, from Namibia, I believe. Yeah. So it's about how the government and the influencers initially they work together, and then at some points they separate, and the influencers tries to give a different facts about the vaccines, and eventually the governments can handle that by having more and more right information to the rural areas and as well as the cities areas, and as a result, more and more vaccines are came out and shot to the citizens. So that's a good news.
Yes.
So this is one of the how to combat the misinformation, disinformation. We have to flood the more right information to the public, so they have the right information about something. Thank you.
Yes, and they're trying to stop people from doing that again, because it's a lot of money that the government has to take out and stuff like that. So yeah, they are trying to build to infiltrate a law per se, even though we have freedom of speech, yes, but then they want to stop it from happening again. I don't know how they're going to do it, but it's in the works.
All right, thank you for your insight, Fesemboa. So any more response from Group 1? This is the last group, I think, that haven't been discussed.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Yeah, okay, please.
Group 1 we will present our discussion first. Yeah,
Okay.
From Group 1, we compare Singapore and Indonesia. From Singapore, we have Ministry of Health. Of course, it's running by the government. And we have from international organization, it's AFP. AFP is international organization. They work through website and social media. the journalists monitor the online content and work with AFP and AFP worldwide, and then they investigate and disprove false information, and they focus on something about harmful, impactful, and manipulative news. And from Indonesia, we have from the government, it's Kominfo, as we know. And then we have Mafindo, or Masyarakat Anti Fitnah. It's an organization running by a regular netizen. It's actually active through website. They are actually ratified internationally from International Fact-Checking Network, and they have cooperate with a lot of community and academic and
Is it me or Dini who lost this?
NGO.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it.
All right, thank you, Dini. But at some point you lost your Wi-Fi signal, so it's okay. But I still can get the ideas of what you're saying. So Dini said, and the group one discussed about the Singapore and Indonesia, and what they found is both countries government have the fact checkers in a different degree. So and also no discussion about the influencers, right, Dini?
Yeah, from the international organization. Yeah.
Okay, from the.
I haven't seen they use influencer for.
All right.
Yeah. For.
Okay. All right. I think that is the discussion from you guys. I think that's interesting because each of you have contributed to this discussion. So it has a fruitful insights from different countries about how the governments during the pandemics itself, how the government cope with infodemics. I thank you for that. It's really such a pleasure to lead this discussion, and we come to a conclusion that we have a different strategies in combating the fake news, ranging from issued from government for the fact checkers or for the third party for the fact checkers, and whether they're using influencers or not. It shows us that every government has a different policy on combating the infodemics, and so far it seems that it works well, whereas in Indonesia as well, and as in Namibia, as has been said by Sembuah, and as well as like in Philippines as well, and Italy as well. So even though the fake news is around us, we might come to the conclusion that the government has handled it well. So it's still at bay, or not all of the people believe about the wrong information about the pandemic itself. So I hope it will keep that way. Most of us will believe on the information provided by government or by the third parties that is reliable enough, so that we will keep and we will shut off this COVID from our surroundings. I think that's all from me. I hope this will give you more insights on how the governance during pandemic itself. Thank you for your discussion, and see you later. And as I have to remind you that for tomorrow still discussion, like you told me that you have to be aware that tomorrow still have discussion on 9 a.m. in the morning until 10, and then 10 to 11, and 11 to 11:50. So it's about the media digital culture in Southeast Asia, social media and infodemics. It might be similar to what I've been discussed today. So you can confirm with Mr. Siddiq Harimadia about his findings, and also a discussion about family and digital life during the pandemic crisis. So I think that's all from me. Stay safe and keep positive, and keep the internet stay positive for us to be lived with. Bye.
Thank you so much, Pak Rino, for the
Thank you, Rino.
perspective and all the discussion today. Thank you all,
Bye.
friends. See you
Thank you
tomorrow.
all.
Thank you all.
Yeah.
Bye.
Thank you, Professor.
Yeah, don't forget to fill out the attendance list for those who aren't filling out.
Okay, thank you. See you tomorrow, guys. And don't forget to fill out the attendance list that I have sent to you already in the chat box. See you tomorrow.